So good morning if you're on this side of the Atlantic, or good afternoon if you're on the other side of Europe. And welcome you to the Vocations Cafe. And the Vocations Cafe is the place when we have the conversations about vocations on different experiences of life, when people coming and experiencing God's call. And I tried a number of times to arrange this conversation. It never worked out for many different circumstances and reasons. And last few days, I finally thought, well, the general chapter of the Oblates starts in next week. So this is the last chance to talk to our Superior General, and he graciously responded. I want to warn you a little bit, and please be patient with us. We have some internet issues in Rome on the site that might be losing sometimes connections, and the asking questions might be a little bit complicated, but we will deal with it as it comes. So I welcome Father Louis Logan to the chat, to our conversation. And maybe Louis, just introduce yourself briefly.
Sure. Thank you for this invitation. I am an Oblate of Mary Immaculate, originally from Buffalo, New York, which is across the lake there from many of you. I don't know if you're all around Hamilton or you're all over Canada. I grew up there, and then I I joined the Oblates when I was 17 years old, just a kid.
Wow.
And studied, I did my studies in Washington, D.C., and then I went to Brazil. I was there for almost 20 years as a missionary. Then I came back to the States, worked there for a while, and I've been in Rome now for 12 years. As Father Jarek said, the Superior General. It's a big title, but it just means the head or the father of a group of missionaries. So I've been here 12 years, and I'm finishing up. The end of this month will be the end of my mandate, my term here in Rome. So I'm looking forward to a new adventure in life. But I'm happy to be with you. Father Jarek has invited me many times, and it never worked out. And now I'm happy to be with you.
I'm glad that we can finally connect. And
it looks
you
like
mentioned
we lost
that
our connection. Sorry.
I know. Please bear with us, whoever is watching with us. We will be trying to walk around it, and I'm trying to chat with Louis on the site. But I will be typing the questions for you. And the first question, as we are talking about the general chapter that is coming to beginning next week, and as you mentioned, you are finishing 12 years as a Superior General. So please share with us who Superior General is. What is Superior General's role and responsibilities?
Yes, I would say after 12 years, I'm all mixed up. No. Basically, there's three things we do. We govern. There's a governmental dimension to the congregation. There is also administration. I'm an administrator. And the third, which I enjoy most, is called animation. Animation means to encourage, to visit our missions, to go around the world and see what Oblates are doing. So those three functions, to govern, to administer, and to animate the congregation. And we have a term of 6 years. It's by election. We have a big meeting. We're preparing for, it will start on Wednesday, about actually exactly 78 missionaries will come from all over the world. And toward the end of the month, after some time of giving reports of what's happening in our missions and prayer and getting to know each other, then toward the end of the month, we have an election. And the election will be for the Superior General and for the members of the General Council. So that's a term of 6 years. and it can be repeated for another 6 years. You could be elected again. But after 2 terms, you can't be. I'm happy about that. So I hope that was clear. And maybe you wanted to ask my salary, huh? That's usually no salary, huh? But wherever I go, the Oblates, welcome me. They put me in their houses. They pay for my plane tickets. So, but no salary.
So it's not a well-paid job.
I don't have a car.
Louis, you mentioned now now
they always joke.
Now, as Superior General, you obviously wasn't born as a Superior General. Earlier, you mentioned that you joined the Oblates at 17, and that's how the journey begins. We usually look at the vocation story, how that first call happens, and how did you answer that first call in the beginning that you joined the Oblates?
Okay, yeah, I always say to young people today, my story is very boring, I mean, I don't have an exciting story to tell, but I would say there are some, elements of that might be helpful or relevant, but, I grew up in a Catholic family. We were you kind of live in a we could say a Catholic atmosphere.
I'm sure we'll reconnect again. It seems like the internet's in the general house it's not working perfect, but all the other problem is the whole technical team that is in the general house. They already moved to just outside of Rome, where the general chapter is going to gather, and so they are not in the house, and nobody can help us with the technical issues on the ground. But we are working as much as we can around it.
I dropped out, I guess.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
You can retell your story.
From the beginning? Okay. Well, I always say my story is boring. It's very calm, no excitement. There were young priests, young sisters, young brothers, all around us. The church was full of life, and we had a baseball field, a bowling alley in the basement of the church, and a football field and basketball. And so our life, even when we were out of school, I mean, we would go up to the church for sports and for plays and, dances. And, I could say from an early age, that kind of struck me that it was to be a brother. We knew some brothers. And I thought the life of a brother was very, very interesting. They were very close to us. I went to high school in the Oblates, the congregation that Father Jarek and I are from. They were teachers in the high school. Mm-hmm. And I tell you, they were close to the students. They were friendly. After school, we would hang out, and also play catch, play basketball, and the Oblates would be there. Even there were sisters too, Franciscan sisters. They would be right with us. And I don't know, it was just impressive, their relationship, their closeness to us, and then to see among themselves, their community spirit really attracted me. And I was thinking about it, but I didn't know Oblates, Franciscans, I wasn't sure. And then I can still remember in a Mass in May of 1969, we had the high school had a Mass. There were 1,200 students. And this Oblate was working in Pennsylvania, in the coal mines with miners. Most of the families from Eastern Europe, like from Poland, from the Czech Republic, from Ukraine. And he told us about their struggle, against black lung disease, and the poverty of the area. And he said, we really need more missionaries to help the people that come with the Catholic faith, to help them, remain in their strong in their faith. And that Mass, I said, I want to be an oblate, and the thing was to work with the poor. That was what, struck me. So that was May of 1969. I was in my third year of high school. There's 4 years in the States. So in senior year, I did discernment with one oblate who helped me decide, and I applied to go to we called it the juniorate. I went to college then, which was run by the oblates. And then, I'd say pretty much I've had some hard times, but, I never doubted the vocation. The thing I could say, which is mysterious, I think, I always felt some kind of a pull to God. I don't know why. I remember in senior year of high school, we had to write a paper on why I go to Mass. What does it mean to me? And, I just wrote what I thought. And the teacher was a priest, an oblate, and he didn't know what I was, thinking about becoming a priest or anything. But he took my paper and he said, I'd like to read you one of the papers. He didn't say my name. I was so embarrassed. I think I was red and sweating as he's reading. I said, I think everybody is looking at me. But there was something there that I can't explain. I say it was a grace or a gift from God that, like a magnet, I felt pulled. We lived in the country. I couldn't be an altar server. I always hoped to be one. But whenever we'd go to the city, I would always like to go to a church and pray. I just felt God near me. So, that's kind of how I got hooked. But I'd say certainly the faith of the family and the faith of the community I lived in. And then in high school, the witness of and the presence of the oblates. When I went to ask the pastor of my parish for a letter of recommendation, he said to me, I don't know you. All I see you is like in the pew on church on Sunday. And you never helped me with the altar. It was so discouraging, He was a diocesan priest. And I mean, there's many, many good diocesan priests. But I think he always had a cigar hanging out of his mouth and walked his dog around the yard. And I just didn't, he didn't seem full of life. Whereas the oblates had this life, and this interest in us and friendly. It was really that human contact with them hooked me, you could say.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned that the closeness to the people, and I think that's very much in the oblate heart, always close to the people. You've experienced that in many ways in different countries around the world. But how did that work out for you? You mentioned earlier as well, you were in Brazil for a while, that missionary experience. How that affected you? How that experience happened? And
that was, there were just two Brazilian sisters here 2 days ago, and I said I left a part of my heart in Brazil. Very, very, wonderful people. Mm-hmm. And I would, I had in one area, I was a large pastoral area. There were two favelas. Favelas are the real poor, poor shanty towns or poor ghettos. And every Sunday night I would be there with the people. And it was very dangerous. There were lots of killings and people getting beat up and robbed, but they knew the padre, and they told me there was a little lady, the short Mary, little Mary, she always had this cigarette butt hanging out of her mouth, and she spoke like a trooper, a heavy language. And Maria Baixinha said to me, Father, nobody will touch you in this favela. You can come here at 2 a.m. or any time of the day. You will be protected. And nobody ever, they all knew me and they respected me. We would have the rosary every Sunday night. All these people would come, people on the edge of life, the throwaways, and pray together. And then, they had nothing, but they'd have a tin can and start like beating a drum and have crackers and tea and have a party, in the poor conditions. I was sick with a back problem, and I was at home, and the other 2 priests who lived with me had gone away to a retreat. The people came, about 15 of them came to the house and took over the house. They were cleaning the house. They were making food. They were guarding the house because the whole area was dangerous. We weren't in the favela, but we were near it. I could tell you another story about that. I
Go
will,
for it.
just a minute. Am I talking too much?
No,
That's okay.
Perfect.
So, but how they took care of me, and our founder, Eugene de Mazenot, would walk on the docks of Marseille talking to all the poor people in the local language, the gutter language he would use. And I felt just like that, not that I'm like the founder, but the relationship. Oblates have that connection, especially, and the people would come to church and hang out at the door. They didn't feel, because people would, their clothes were different from a favela. And they would have those like Havaianas. Now they're what do you say, elegant. You have to pay a lot of money. They would have those plastic sandals. Everybody knew, they're from the favela. But when I had the mass, they all would, I'd say, come on in the church, take the front seats. Our founder did that. I'm not trying to say I'm great, but I would say the people were close to us, and I'll just tell you, Holy Thursday, we moved from one part of the capital, Sao Paulo, to another part. It was a tremendous, terrible day. Holy Thursday, all day working, hot day. And so we get our house, we jammed the stuff in the house. We took showers, and then all of us, we were about 11. There were 2 priests and then 9 young men who were thinking of becoming oblates. So we went out to Holy Thursday services in these different little communities. And when we got home, it was about 9:30 at night. I said, well, I locked the door, but the door was open. I go in, nothing is there. Wow. Everything stolen. Everything. Bed linens, silverware, because everything was in boxes. We had started taking things out. Everything was gone. We were totally robbed. So we slept on the floor. It was really a terrible night. The next day, Good Friday, we had Way of the Cross at 7:00 in the morning. I go to the favela, and Maria Baixinha, Short Mary, is there. She says, how was your night, Father? It was our first night living there. I said, well, our house was emptied out. Everything was stolen. Oh, your house was stolen? I'll take care of that. Now, don't go to your house. Don't go back before noon. I said, I wonder why. So anyway, we all had different commitments that morning, and around 1:00, we went back to the house. 3 men from the favela were there. They said, welcome back, Father. Please come in. Everything was there. Everything was back. And we had this little black and white television. Now we had a huge, a huge screen, whatever that's called, a flat screen colored TV that they had found for us, But I had really a wonderful, and I say it isn't just the oblates, but the people are so welcoming. When you go to a house, the first thing they do is come to the kitchen and open the refrigerator door and show you anything you want here is yours. It was like that was the inner sanctum. Usually you don't look into people's refrigerators, but that, I was really, I learned like forgiveness I learned generosity like you couldn't. The poor, we were having in the favela a Christmas party. So you take out, your little paper from a little paper bag to see what you're supposed to bring to the Christmas dinner. So I pull out shrimp. Now I'm saying, shrimp in the favela? I couldn't believe it. I thought it was, a little over the top, a little ritzy. So one of the other young men who was with me who was preparing to be an oblate, he too picked out shrimp. So I took his paper and I said, I'll take care of this. So I go to the street market. We have every day there's a market in the street. And I went and got the shrimp. So there's these little, tiny baby shrimp. You get like a kilo for, I don't know, what would say 50 cents, So I bought like 2 kilos. I said, boy, I'm really generous. We get to the favela for the Christmas party and we come with our plastic bags of shrimp and everybody starts laughing at us. Oh, they said, oh, Father, those are great for salad. Thank you. That's nice. But I could see they were laughing at us. Well, then 2 other people from the favela had picked out shrimp too. So they bring their tray, a huge tray with these like monster shrimp. And, my eyes are popping out. I said, you bought all those shrimp for this party? I mean, I'm thinking, how much money did that cost? And how did you get that money? And they said, Father, it's Christmas. We have to celebrate, we give our best to celebrate the birthday of Jesus, and I'm there with my, my little baby shrimp there. Anyway, many, in forgiveness, a woman whose only son, I mean, it's like the Bible, her only son, they came from Japan. They were a family that came from Japan and the son was killed by, thugs, whatever you call them, marginal, probably from the favela. But she made this witness in the church. I love those boys. I know some of them, and I'm going to help educate them, get them in school so they can get a new life. And I don't press any charges. I don't want the police involved in this. I just, a woman who came from Venezuela to Brazil, living all alone. Well, her husband had died. She had many sicknesses, many heart, diabetes, and a family took her in. She's our grandma, and I'm thinking, what about insurance? What if she needs the hospital? How we think, just welcome, no strings attached. So, yeah, beautiful.
It's amazing learning from the poor, as you said, walking with the poor, and the experience of Saint Eugene, being so close to the poor in the docks of Marseille.
Yeah.
And you certainly have that direct connection with Saint Eugene as the successor, Superior General.
I'm a living relic.
Well, Louis, that's what I want to ask you about the relics or whatever we would look at that. But I remember a few years ago, I believe that was 2017, when we had the second Mission with Youth Congress in Aix-en-Provence in our foundation house. I had the privilege and honor to be there. But one thing that I remember that truly, truly touched me when we were gathering in the chapel and you brought the cross of Saint Eugene and we were passing it around and everybody has that moment of connection, a moment of prayer and silence holding to the cross of Saint Eugene. The thing was, for many, many years, the cross of Saint Eugene was locked up in the archives as a relic. You decided that that cross has to be brought to the world. And can you share with us why you make the decision and what an impact it had on the Oblates and Oblate Associates?
Oh, thank you. That's a beautiful chapter also, as you say, for the 200th anniversary, I said, what would be, some people said, well, take, we have a piece of the heart, take the heart around. And, then we have the cross. I just thought, in some cultures, like a piece of the body is repugnant. that would turn people off. But a cross, everybody can venerate it in their own way, you know? So I decided that wherever I went in that year and a half, and even more than that, I took the mission cross. It speaks, well, the heart would speak certainly of charity, and that's very important for Eugene. But the other hand, the cross was his conversion experience, from that sense of being a terrible sinner, and at the same time of being saved and loved by God. I mean, so, and also the mission, how to go forth and preach, and the oblation of Christ. So that made me think I should take the cross around. And it really was far beyond my expectation how it moved and touched people. First of all, the oblates. You know, when I would take it to a community, and sometimes we'd have a Vespers or at the penance rite of Mass or after communion, as you experienced, and it was like touching Eugene de Mazenod, being in his presence, feeling his blessing upon us, and tears. Tears would come, and people, oblates would press the cross to their heart, renew or think of or renew their vows and their commitment, remember their mission. It was so powerful. And the same thing, and maybe if I don't want to exaggerate, but even more with the lay people, the lay associates, the oblates, the oblate family. I remember in Mexico, I had to go to the airport. I had about an hour and a half before I had to leave, and a group of about 20 lay associates, young people, were there, and they wanted. I said, before I leave, I'd like to, have you hold the founder's cross. So we had a little prayer. We sat down, and somebody was playing the guitar in the background. Well, I couldn't believe it. Each one held the cross 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I was worried I wouldn't get to the airport on time. I'm trying to say, Lord, tell them to rush up. In Cameroon, also, a lady told the story of her mother being sick, and the old French missionary would go into her mother's little bungalow, bring her food, and nobody wanted to go in the sick lady's house. They were afraid. He would go in there with some food and feed her. She was bedridden, and she held the cross on her cheek, and her tears ran over the cross. It was just tremendous. So that has been a big, as you said, it has really been a contact with the founder, with his mission and his spirit of complete self-gift to God. Yeah, that's been I wished I had had a camera to tape some of these beautiful moments.
I think actually, as you said, that's probably the most personal experiences too. So maybe it's not better even not to have the camera. It becomes
that's right. It becomes a show.
People and God and Saint Eugene. But I remember personally how emotional and personal that experience was. Just to hold it to the cross. I think our internet is getting a little bit better, so I want to welcome everybody who is joining us live, and we're gonna try it. You can post, if you are watching us, you can post your comments or questions in the comments. We're going to see them and maybe later on address as we are talking. But Louis, I want to ask you from one perspective, which is developing a big time in the Oblate family. We just had the second Lay Associations Congress around the world, and this seems like the times that it's emerging from God's call, St. Eugene's charism, that the whole idea of the Mazenodian family, when the charism is being spread beyond just devout oblates. Can you share your experience, like how the lay people are coming into the charism? Do you see the value of it and how it's happening?
Absolutely, I see the value. The lay people who embrace, who live the Oblate charism, enrich us. We have something, and we give something to the lay people, of course, but they also give us a different perspective, a different depth to what the charism means. We have in our congregation a huge, what would you say, a huge spectrum, a huge variety of ways that people live the Oblate charism. We have people who are working with us, it could be in parishes, it could be in other ministries like justice and peace, the integrity of creation. It could be in schools, it could be in retreat houses. Lay people, I should include also many times sisters are working with us. And I think that part of that charism of being close to the people also makes this association with lay missionaries, lay oblates, also very, very strong. We have, I would say the cultural reality shapes the way the family, the Damascenadian family lives the charism. I remember being in Africa where catechists are key people in the church. The catechist is a leader of a community or of many communities. For example, in Senegal, I was in a little place of maybe 1,200 people. Half are Muslims, half are Catholics, and they have the Les Amis de Saint Eugène, the Friends of Saint Eugene, among the Catholics, and they visit the sick. They visit everybody. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're Catholic or Muslim. They go. I mean, they're really washing bodies, washing the body of people, dressing the wounds, giving medicine. They have their own informal hospital. But again, you see in them the closeness to the poor, the sick. Also, many places, the Oblate associates are in the streets with the people. The Rosies in Australia are very famous. Presents. It's presents, coffee, and a sandwich, and you talk to the people. They have a little card. It's thousands of volunteers now, and they know the people on the street. The people in the street know them by name. They make a point of that familiarity. They're not there just to distribute food. They're there to be friends, not to impose themselves, but to offer friendship, and to know names. I mean, there's so many in Brazil, here in Italy too. The Oblate family, the Damascenadian family, the associates, go on the parish missions with the Oblates. I don't know in Canada. I know there was a team before. In the States, we almost don't have any more teams for parish missions. But here in Italy still, and in other countries, they're still popular. And they have like a team of 30 or 40 people. It will be oblates, it will be lay people, it will be young people. And this one they had recently in the south of Italy, the young people, the young missionaries, young adults, they did the mission in the street, in the coffee bars, in the pizza places. They got together about 80 young people who they don't go to church, they're baptized, but that's it. And they did a mission in the streets with them. And at the end, about 15 entered RCIA and made that journey. So we have like a wild garden of all kinds of oblate, lay oblates living the charism. It's really beautiful. Hopefully, though, we'll have a little more organization. That's what's lacking in communication. That's what at this second Congress has asked for, and we hope now at the chapter that will be made a little more concrete.
That's what's happening. It seems like the oblate charism it's spreading around. I love the image you used on August 15, on the feast of Assumption, when we remembered 200 years of the special moment of grace of Eugene, as you referred to our congregation and the charism as that growing tree into the branches, and becoming bigger and bigger. But as well, you mentioned that sometimes we have to do the pruning a little bit to focus truly on what God is calling us to do. And from that perspective, like you had a chance to visit oblates around the world, everywhere, different cultures, different experiences. I know that in a few days you will be giving a detailed report to the delegates that will be coming for the general chapter. But how would you describe from your perspective as Superior General, if someone asks you like, so how are we doing as the congregation? Like, how are we? Like, it doesn't have to be detailed report, but like, what's your take on like how are we doing?
I say we're very healthy. We're a very healthy congregation. You know, if I could say a minute on numbers, numbers are not everything. You know, we're about 3,500. That's a steady decline. You know, the interesting thing is talking about vowed oblates. We've had around 600 scholastics for 20 years. Scholastics and brothers in formation. I should say post novices. Those are men who have made their vows. They're in temporary vows. That is really amazing. I mean, when I mention that to other congregations, because although the overall number, because of our elderly, is going down, we've maintained around 600 scholastics. So that means the proportion of young people is steady, and eventually it should help us stabilize an overall number of oblates and could even grow. Father Steckling, the former Superior General, he was, you know, good with graphs and these things. I'm not, numbers. And he said, you know, at a certain point, we should stabilize and then even grow a little if the number of scholastics, post-novices remains the same. So from that point of view, like I would say, you know, Europe, North America, Australia, you hear the echoes of we're dying, we're going to disappear. And if you look at the whole congregation, that isn't the storyline. And I think we have to have the big picture. And I think even if we are diminishing in some areas, we still do tremendous work for the kingdom of God. It isn't, as I said at the beginning, it isn't about numbers. You know, Jesus had 12, Eugene started with 6. And to look at the long-term vision, I'd say we're doing very well. You know, we have, I think, you know, there's things to trim. You know, always comes up identity confusion. Or we don't know who we are. It comes up. I'm surprised that sometimes we don't know who we are. But sometimes we don't live out what we've professed to be. And that's where, you know, it's conversion. It's always conversion. St. Eugene says that in his preface, constant renewal, you know, strive to be saints. He uses these phrases. So anyway, I think we're healthy and we have a lot. I mean, the church counts on us, you know. I didn't know till I got to Rome how well we are known and how much the church counts on us. I'll shut up in a minute, but Propaganda Fide is the congregation that takes care of evangelization in the whole world. So there's a whole bunch of cardinals and bishops in this group that takes care of the church's evangelization. Who of religious orders is on the board with all these cardinals and bishops? The Jesuit general, of course, the Jesuits, the OFMs, the Franciscans, and the only other one, the Superior General of the Oblate Superior Immaculate. It's like you could say, a jewel in our crown. I mean, that's one thing. I mean, more important is that we're close to the people. That's the real important. But in the church counts on us.
It's always related. Oblate vocation was always related within the church mission, and we are reminded that constantly that it's not our own, thinking, but within the church. Louis, we have a couple of questions that we can address here. There is a there was a precedence that was happening with the previous superior generals. So, like Father Marcelo Zago was named Archbishop to the Congregation of Evangelization. Uh, Father Wilhelm Steckling was named the bishop in Paraguay. Are we expecting another appointment?
Oh, you're terrible. This
I
should.
have.
You're really
That's
nasty, Father, with that nice smile.
that comes with the next question. So this is coming from Serena. Do you have a wish about how you will continue your missionary work when you are finished as superior general? What do you see as next, or your wish, or after finishing as superior general?
Yeah, I would like to, be somewhere with the poor in a simple setting, like different oblate provinces have invited me, oh, come to
Hmm.
Bangladesh, come to India, oh, come to Indonesia, come to Brazil. So, I mean, that would be wonderful. But, whatever they ask me to do, I'll say yes, because that's the founder's obedience in our institute is prompt, humble, and complete. But I wouldn't want to, be in administration again, let's say of a school or I
Hmm.
don't know, of a, uh, or an office job. I mean, this, I said at the beginning, you administer and govern. That isn't my. I like to animate. I like to encourage. I would love to work with Oblate associates. I would
Yeah.
love to be with the poor. So those are some things that I hope it might happen, but we'll see.
We'll see. As I said, we'll see what's gonna happen. So we're talking what after, but I remember we were. I'm not sure if that was like a broadcast live at that time, 12 years ago, uh, when you
It
were
was.
elected the superior general first. It was significant moment for those who were watching. But as Darcy is asking here, the role of superior general is such an awesome and critical task, and we are so very grateful for your servant leadership. Yes, we are. When the possibility or likelihood of being selected as superior general became apparent, you were there, you were sitting at that room. How did you feel about it? Did you feel like Jonah and want to make a run for it? Was it welcome, exciting, terrifying? Like, how do you recall that experience of being named, being called forward as superior general?
Oh, that's an awesome question. Um, I felt terrified. If you see the video, it was on YouTube. I looked like and I felt like I would either break down crying or throw up, vomit.
Mm.
I just, every time I heard my name, it was like a nail or a hammer on my heart, and I felt totally inadequate, totally incompetent. Uh, Jonah, yes, I wanted to flee. And to tell you the truth, I fled once before. I was Jonah in Brazil. In Brazil, we had a vote, a straw vote for provincial, and my name came out on top. And I wrote to everybody in the province. I said, I cannot do this. I'm sorry. I have other things to
Mm.
do. It was a real sin, and I apologize to the province. At this time when I was elected, because the provincial of Brazil was there, and he knew that I fled like Jonah. So, but I grew a little bit, but I still felt overwhelmed and terrified.
Mm.
But I said, I said at that moment, I depend on God, God's grace, and on the support of my brothers, and I've had that. So I still feel incompetent and inadequate. I mean, I really do. Uh, I mentioned governance and administration are not my gifts, but luckily there's a good council, and a good team,
Mm.
and they make me look good. So I thank them. I thank them really.
It's good to work with them. Lloyd, thank you for all the sharing with us your experience. And like as we come to for those chats in Vocations Cafe, the ultimate hope and dream is that we can, through those conversations, inspire young people, older people to discover their own vocation, because everybody is called in one
Yeah.
way or the other. And like, what would be your advice to a very particular to a young man who are discerning, and maybe they are watching this right now, our conversation? Like, what would be your advice to a young man who's thinking about answering the call to the oblates or missionary work?
I think you want to ask God, Lord, I think St. Francis, Lord, what do you want of me? Often we're looking at what I want to do,
Mm-hmm.
and we think that brings happiness. It brings some limited, let's say, pleasure, maybe. But I would say real happiness is trying to do what God, and I know it isn't easy to know sometimes, but God, what do you want of me? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to be? And that's where I think what Father Jarek said, God wants us to be holy, to be full of love, to be good to the poor, to be in solidarity with the poor. I think also it's important to name your fears.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had a lot of fears of my own, my own self-image, my own, self-esteem it's always low. I always fight with that. And to name your fears, recognize your fears, and to work on them with someone who's wise, to have what do you say, a accompaniment person, a spiritual accompaniment, to help you articulate, know your fears, and look at them without being afraid, like
Mm-hmm.
I was Jonas, I ran away. And prayer, prayer is important. Listening, prayer is listening. So those are, but I would say, don't be afraid. Name your fears. But I could say from my experience, God, has been with me. God does not abandon me. God does not abandon us. And if you have courage to know your fears and to step into them and step beyond them, I think you find, real happiness, even though everything isn't, what would say easy. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. The answering the call, it's not always as clear as we think it is. And it's just
Yeah.
to have that courage to take this first step and trust in God to answer that. Louis, I want to thank you, and Father Yolande as well. It's echoing the gratitude for those 12 years. And once again, look at this, like propaganda fide. Who knows, right? where all of this goes. But Louis,
No, do you want me to answer that?
sure.
Okay, because I mean, many oblates have said that to me. And two things. Nobody knows me. I mean, in the States, I'm unknown, among the, let's say, hierarchy. And in Brazil, I'm forgotten now. In the USG, the Union of Superiors General, where Father Steckling and Father Zago were super known, I have stayed in the background. I mean, I've been challenged why I'm not up there at the main table, but I know where that goes. You're always coordinating. So, and the last thing is, I'll be 70 and September 28th, and I'm older than they were. So there's there's my protection.
Well, we'll see how God works. But I truly want to echo, and you've heard in the comments here that people mentioned, like, the gratitude from the Oblates and from Oblates Associates for your leadership. Like, truly, I personally witnessed that on so many different occasions, and the heart that you gave to the congregation. There's no doubt that as a successor of Saint Eugene the Mazenot, you carry the same heart, open to people, to the Oblates, so concerned about our mission and ministry, so concerned about the poor. And I think very often this is so in the heart of us and moving forward. So I want to say sincere thank you for that, and wish you all the best when the way it happens. As you said, you have dreams, and how the missionary works continues. Certainly, I can imagine how tired you must be after 12 years in administration. It will be nice to do a little missionary work, and I wish you all the best for that. Please be assured about our prayers. We'll be all praying as the general chapters conveys next week. That's Wednesday, right?
Yeah,
It begins on Wednesday for a month, and pray for the capitulars that will be coming together, for all who gather, and truly openness to the Holy Spirit, to the discernment where the Holy Spirit guide us as the congregation, as they are choosing the new Superior General. So I just want to say sincere thank you for that, and thank you for being with us here, and
thank you for the
having the chance.
invitation. I'm glad it finally worked out. Thanks
Yes,
so much. And all
very
those who
grateful
wrote,
for
I
it.
saw Eleanor's name there, one of our #1 fans. So thank you all.
Yes, she
I
is.
love you very much. God
Thank you,
bless you.
Louis. God bless.
Okay, bye now.